What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rewired Addiction with Derek Lambert and my beautiful, wonderful wife, Ryan.
Hey.
So we wanted to talk to you guys. We get a lot of questions. A lot of people reach out. I really appreciate that. You guys know I put my number in the description. You guys are more than welcome to call if you need help with anything. If you're struggling with addiction, I'm here for you. We got a lot of people who reach out, and it's not just one. I completely keep people anonymous and confidential, but the issues we're finding a lot lately are dealing with relationships. A lot of people are struggling in their relationships. So we wanted to talk, and it's going to get a little raw, I guess. Some of the things that I did when I was in active addiction and how my wife dealt with them, that is important, I guess, people hearing. But you also got to understand, the kind of people we are. We weren't both doing the same drug of choice, so we weren't both addicted to heroin. I was, even though I tried to get you to try it one time, remember?
Uh-huh.
And I think you tried, but you couldn't get it. You just don't know how to snort stuff or whatever. I don't know.
I've never snorted anything in my life. I'm one of those swimmers that, hold your nose when you swim. So
yeah.
It's not my thing. I can't do it. So.
Yeah, you definitely.
Then you told on me.
I did. Yeah. So let's talk about some stuff here. This is a good point. A lot of people say, "How did you do it?" How did you? Of course, you love me, but what do you think worked for you?
So, as far as staying with you, how did I stay with you?
I mean, yeah, I guess. What was the best thing that worked for you though during it? Because a lot of them are trying to get their loved ones clean, or they're wanting to possibly get clean themselves. I know that you quit using your pills and stuff when I actually got clean.
Right, but before you got clean, so to take you back a little bit. My biological father, he is actually in prison for manufacturing and distributing heroin. So when I found out, I knew Derek had been using pills. And I'll never forget the people he was running with. I knew them. I knew their background. I knew he was acting different. I couldn't really put my finger on it. I knew the people he was running with were doing heroin. So I had a feeling, but he was so terrified of needles. I honestly thought if he was doing anything, he was just snorting it, that he was not shooting it. And he was at the beginning, but then he eventually did start doing the IV method, I guess. And I just had this feeling, you get that feeling as a woman, then it's most of the time always right.
Yeah, always. Look, her phone just went off. It's all good. So the wife, pretty much the way I looked at it when I was in active addiction was I was taking advantage of her kindness. Did I want to hurt her? No. But I was taking advantage of it, and at some point you had to give me an ultimatum. You kind of
Well, first I confronted you with it, and I knew, because Derek's the type of person that you have to have evidence or he's going to deny it. And even then he sometimes denies it. So I knew I had to find the marks on him for him to come clean about it. And I did, found the marks on his arms, and that's when I addressed him. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that it made me sick to my stomach, because I knew deep down how extreme Derek is. I just knew he was going to die. There was no other option. And that's a hard thing to really, I guess, think about. Yeah. So, I cried for a week, 2 weeks, literally. And then finally, I guess I just accepted it, because I knew that at least I could try to control, being the nagging wife and the bitch that I am. Let's just be honest. I knew that I could try to control it, and maybe then, just maybe, I could help with him not killing himself. So I was sort of put in the situation can you leave him? Yeah, you can leave him. But do you know what kind of guilt somebody who is with an addict would feel if they knew that they left and they killed themselves from an overdose, or from, because then at that point they have absolutely nothing to lose. They have no family at that point. They have no wife. They have no kids. Or they
feel that they don't.
They feel like they don't have anyone. And so, they just go further and further deeper in their addiction. And I knew that would be the case for Derek. So I couldn't live with myself if I had left him.
So at some point you kicked me out.
At that point,
I was stealing everything.
I was, trying to, control it as much as I could. There's only so much you can do. And then he just got further and further down the hole anyways. And at that point, I believe CPS was called on us. I was not mentioned at all in the report. I'm not sure why. I don't know who called. I have no idea. Yeah. But it was strictly just Derek that was mentioned, and then our kids were brought up. Don't have a clue why. Again, when he was in active addiction, he was never even left with our kids like that.
So for you, it came down to
down to choosing between my husband, who is the father of my children, or my children. And that, I will say, is probably the hardest position that you will ever have to be in, is to choose between the father of your kids and your kids. Especially, the love that you have for that person. So ultimately, I did choose my kids because I knew that I couldn't lose them. They're helpless. They're children who can't fend for themselves. He's a grown man. He's going to do what he wants to do. And I had to choose my kids. So I did kick him out.
And I kind of felt, and just being honest, because addiction's no joke, I kind of felt some relief in a way, because now I don't have to worry about every moment looking over my shoulder, looking at you disappointed in me or upset or angry or yelling at me. So now I'm going from couch to couch, which I've mentioned many times on my channel. I'm going from couch to couch. Tiffany, Brandon, is mainly where I was staying. And we would wake up and they would be straight or be trying to get straight. And it was like fend for your own self. Like, I had nothing to use. So I had to find ways to try and get high. And it was so difficult. I can easily see panhandling or something, go down to Walmart, walk up to people. Because I didn't look so bad off yet. Right. Like I could have come across with a message of, look, I just broke down the street, good BSer, and possibly get money. But I didn't do that. I made up that story. So back to the relationship. Do you think that had a positive effect on me? Or if someone's watching right now and they're going through it too, what do you think would be good for them? Do they just need to reach out and have someone to talk to at that point? Because there's probably not much you can do. For someone who's in my
position?
Right.
Yeah, definitely reach out. The position that you're put in most of the time as a wife or a family member that's, dealing with this from another spouse or whatever it may be, they don't feel like they have anyone who understands or they can talk to. So it is important that you reach out. It is important that you find someone that you can talk to, someone who's not going to judge you, someone who's not going to tell you, oh, just leave them, because it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. Someone who understands the situation a little bit better and can give you some advice maybe, or at least just be there just to listen, because that helps. You don't want to go to, I know for me at least, I did not want to go to an Al-Anon meeting, with the help. I don't know these people. I'm not that type of person who wants to go into meetings alone and then I feel even lonelier. And I didn't have anyone to talk to other than my mom, because she is like my best friend, so I can talk to her about those things. So I was lucky in that sense. And even
she's
his
not
mom,
open to meetings. She's like not a.
Yeah,
I've tried,
but
talking
I can
to
talk to her about anything with no judgment. She's not going to judge me. But not many people have that. So I would say reach out. I'm here. Derek's here. So we have both aspects of it. It is important for you to understand that it's not, for someone who is looking on the outside in, it's not as easy to leave an addict as people may.
It's not as easy to leave a relationship, period. Like
right,
that.
Yeah, that's true.
We're connected, and so it's very difficult when you watch someone you love, who you think you can actually help somehow. You partially think, I'll do what I can to try and save them. Like with you, flipping the role. Because it wasn't just me, even though it was like, if you were to compare, there's not a comparison in terms of the depth at which I went, yet it was still bad. I'd catch you lying, taking your Adderall. Mm-hmm. I'd catch you lying, getting back on the meds, period. The cool thing was about my recovery process is that I didn't have any inkling of a desire to want to use. I had that one hiccup at 1 year mark. I did a video on, but other than that, and that was out of town while I was working.
I didn't have, at that point, I wasn't buying on the streets. I was prescribed it. I kept it completely away from Derek. I did try to hide it. mainly at the beginning, even when he knew about it, I still didn't do it in front of him. I wasn't fiending for it. I was a very high functioning addict. I didn't carry myself like I was someone who used any type of drug. Honestly, you probably would never look at me if you knew me and knew that I had ever even done a drug, you know?
And that could easily be, you know, that, and some people can do that and it still ruins
Yeah.
their life over a long time. And sometimes that's just the beginning stages. You
Right.
know, after a while, we can easily start to deteriorate and it gets worse and worse. And then
It does. It gets worse. And even when you quit and then you relapse again, it's almost like every time you relapse, you go back to the place where you were when you first quit.
Mm-hmm.
So you get further and further down into the addiction. But it doesn't matter, you know, who tells you, you know, you need to quit or you have an issue or a problem. Until you accept it yourself, it doesn't matter what they say. I quit many times, and it wasn't because I felt I had an addiction. It was because Derek said I had an addiction, and I wanted to appease him.
Right.
And, you know, so I'd quit. But not till later and further down, and I kept relapsing and had no control over it, did I realize that, you know, maybe he is right. Maybe I do have an addiction because I couldn't control it, you know?
You know how many times I would do that? I'd come to her and she would throw it up in my face. I'm not an addict. We'd argue about this and that. And I'm like, dude. And she would tell me the definition of a drug addict. And I'm like, listen, there
I have
are
a
different.
dependency, not an addiction.
Right, right. Always some BS to me. And I'm like, dude, I mean, look, you might know how to do it better than I did for a while, whatever. But the bottom line is it's a struggle. So when I would approach you, which worked better? Me coming at you and going, hey, here's the deal? Or when I would approach you with understanding and say, okay, check it out.
I would deny it. I can tell you there were times that I was coming home from like office manager meetings, you know, big successful job, you know. I didn't feel that I had this problem. And I would be driving home and he would text me something about how he's going to drug test me when I get home. And then I would freak out. And so I'm trying to find out every way to like get around this, just like he did in that one video that he did. So I don't drink water like that, so there's no way I could freaking drink as much water as him, you know, and get away with it. I couldn't. So I went and I remember buying these AZO pills. They're normally like cranberry pills that you can take for urinary tract infections. They're a natural supplement you can buy at Walmart. And I took it, but I took the wrong kind. Apparently there's 2 different kinds. Well, this stuff turned orange. Like, it was orange coming out. Even on my pants. Like, not even, like, just on the outside of my lining of the pants was orange. It was really weird. I had no idea what the hell it was. But I knew if I was going to pee for him and it was orange, there was no way of getting around that. You know, like, it was, it was bad.
Well, I remember you dumped your piss test in the toilet.
Oh, my God.
She was trying to get by, and she dumped it in the toilet with her legs squeezed together. It's not like I've seen her give birth, you know. So I'm like, why are you, you know, I'm in there with her. I wouldn't let her take her piss test by herself.
Well, apparently there was toilet paper already in the in the thing. So when I brought it up, he was looking down, and I saw it, and I thought, oh my God, he sees it, but he didn't see it. So I like hurried up and got it out. I don't know if the kids peed before me. I don't know what the hell happened. But it was hanging off of it. So I finally got it off and without him noticing, and I thought, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. And
But
then
I wasn't.
you know, my nasty, you know, I was just like, that's not hot. And I knew that you were lying. Yeah. So when I approached you with understanding and saying more like, look, I get it. I know exactly what it is. I know why you do it, but we got to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. I would admit it, I think, easier once you did that. Because my fear was, I didn't want him to, well, not just be mad at me, but to leave me. You know, like, I didn't want to lose him over this issue that I didn't even think I had, that he just was putting on me because it was his issue. You know, in my mind, that's how I felt. And I didn't want to lose him because of it. But I wanted to get away with that at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So when he would address me, you know, in a loving manner and tell me it's okay, that he understands and that he knows, and then I would break down and open up to him, and it was a lot easier and more accepting. But then when I thought he was okay with it, I'd keep doing it.
Yeah, and see, if we didn't follow through with action once we came to an understanding, she would keep going, and then it would start breaking her down. Even not too long ago, you know, when we had those struggles at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
like, you would keep you would keep going until something changed. And we both had to, I guess it would be me pushing her somewhat, but she also wanted to do it and fight it. Now there's still going to be the temptation, but now together we can work together on trying to stay clean together. But I had to do it for me at first. Now some people say they had to do it for the kids, they had to do it for their wife. I don't care what your reasoning is at first. I've heard people say only for you is the only way. That's the only way you're going to keep it, I think. Because if you're only doing it for someone else, what happens when they die? Or what happens when something happens and they're not in your life anymore? Are you going to stop doing it? Are you going to start back on the drug? You have to do it for you.
Ultimately, you have to do it for yourself.
Ultimately,
and there's other reasons that,
whatever gets you clean, though, is,
right. But the ultimate reason for the video is to talk more about, couples and who are in active addiction together and how do they get through it as well. Like I said, it was different for me and Derek just because we did choose different drugs. Our drug of choice was different.
Yeah.
I like uppers. He liked downers.
Mm-hmm.
I had no interest in downers at all. He had no interest in uppers because he had a bad experience and he couldn't do it.
It's still to this day not right because of Adderall. And I get it. I mean, I am obviously open-minded to the science and to the things that, there are people who need medicines in the world. I am a firm believer in that. I don't care what someone else's position on it is or with it, that's fine. But there are people who may need Adderall, benzos, whatever. The bottom line is for me, I had done them and it did something permanently to me. And so also another thing I think is important, I interviewed Katie and Cody. They're in a relationship. They're just boyfriend and girlfriend. They were running the streets. God knows what they were doing to get their drugs. You never know the struggles they had to go through just to keep going another day to feel normal using meth and heroin. And so I like the fact that there are facilities that accept husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, even though they don't put them together.
Right.
Because you cannot, in my opinion, it's
you don't
not.
want to mix the two too closely,
yeah,
obviously.
You put the women with the women, the men with the men. You might cross
them
paths at some point during the process, but getting alone time with them and spending alone time in privacy, there's emotions there. This is why they talk about in recovery, and this is not just in 12 steps, but most recovery people are like, don't get in a relationship within the first year.
Right.
There's
it's
emotions.
13-step in.
Well, no, that's if you're going to meetings and you're trying to, like a 12-step meetings and you're trying to get laid or whatever. They say that though because you're so new, your emotions are so raw. It's so easily to get worked up, and if she breaks up with you or anger or hate, something can happen that can trigger and cause you a relapse. And some people have different views about sex and how relationships should be, whether you're religious, not religious, whatever. But they say that because imagine if the relationship fails, and most of the time it does. I mean,
right, because you're in a vulnerable place. And
Shannon said it best. She
right.
said people come to our recovery Discord looking for a relationship. That's like going to bankruptcy court looking for a business partner. It's not the place you want to go looking for a relationship is in that kind of setting. So they're just saying be smart because emotions can really get us triggered and want to feel better and escape ourselves again to use. And I'm sure there are other factors that play a role.
Things like that, yeah.
But I'm a firm believer in those facilities that not only incorporate a family-type recovery environment, but also a relationship allowing couples to go. Because how many times have people not wanted to go? Even Cody and Katie, recently they were on the news, weren't going to go to a facility. And Richie reached out and got them scholarship. They went because they could both go.
Right.
Kurt and Natalie.
Like Kurt and Natalie, yeah.
They will go if they can go together, and we're working on trying to get them that help.
You can't blame those couples who don't want to go unless the other goes, because how are you going to leave the loved one out there struggling when you're able to get help? Mm-hmm. How are you going to do that? You can't. You can't.
Or you don't
that.
Want to. Yeah.
I mean, who would want to? That would be beyond selfish because you're running the streets with this person. You're emotionally attached to this person. You know how bad it is to be out there, and here you get help, and then you're just leaving another one hanging. It's a lot harder to choose that route because people do feel, that emotional connection with that person on a deeper level that you don't understand, especially when they're running the streets together. So there's that aspect of it, and so with couples who are in addiction, it's one or two things. They either feed off each other, and if they're both not on the same page about getting clean, that's how it's easier to relapse, in my opinion. I don't know. Our addictions were different, so it's harder for me to say that. But from the looks of it and what I've seen in other couples who were, doing the same drugs together and running the streets together, that's, mainly what happens. So they feed off each other. They're not strong enough yet to say no. They want to get clean, but they don't want to get clean. Mm-hmm. The other relapses, it's easier for that second person to relapse with them.
It's rare that you see active addiction couples. I've never known a case that together, the same choice drug, the same type of addiction, doing the same wild shit. I'm not talking about like where they're in early stages and somehow catching. I'm talking about deep in there, like willing to go panhandle, prostitute, whatever, and they just both decide one day they're going to get clean. There's more to it than the drug. There's a lifestyle there. You have to separate yourself from people, places, and things. And there's a reason every medical facility in the United States, Canada, you name it, believe in that same motto: separate yourself from that environment, the people, places, and things, and then work on you. There's more underlying factors. So
right. You have to be strong enough to say no. And someone who's newly in recovery, they're tempted already and they're fighting it to try to stay sober. So when they have that other person who falls apart and can't, continue with the recovery, it's so much easier for that second person to follow. And that's one reason that, you don't see a lot of couples who do the same choice of drugs, who are in the relationship, stay in that relationship, unfortunately, or they just both continue the same cycle over and over because they're feeding off each other. Mm-hmm. Not saying that's the case for everyone. It really just depends on the circumstances, the individuals, the work that they're putting in, how much they want it, how much they're going to fight for it, and how their lives were in the addiction and how their lives are in recovery. So there's a lot of factors to it. It's not black and white,
No, but like just being silent about it and not reaching out, that is going to cause deaths, and it's not going to help. Right. So we're putting ourselves out there. We've already been talking where the people have reached out to us, and there are females that reach out that are kind of like, I don't want to call Derek. So they're like, okay, because I'm a man, and I don't blame them for wanting to not contact me, so to speak. Some have, and I'm open to anyone contacting. But if you are a female, you're not just going to get me. You have me and my wife together here to help tell you from our own experience what it's like. And we've got resources galore. We're able to try and get you set up and try to find you somewhere that you can get help. Right. And that's what we're trying to do, is help people. A lot of women who reach out are thankful that as soon as I pick up the phone and I'm talking to them, I can be like, honey, here, listen to my wife's angle. It has nothing really to do with the sex aspect of it, male or female. If you're in the position of loving someone who is in active addiction and you're not, and you're not an addict, you don't have a clue about what to expect or what to do, I can benefit from that just because I do have that perspective. Mm-hmm. And if you're in active addiction or you're new in recovery or you are just in recovery and you're still struggling, whatever it may be, that's where Derek comes in too. He's good in that aspect. Even though I have that addiction and recovery aspect as well, it's not to the extent of what Derek has, and vice versa. As far as him being the spouse of my addiction, the way that I have that aspect. Does that make sense? Yeah, because I was very, I don't know how to put this. Maybe I'll try and explain the best I can. Is when I caught you, all right, you were more compromising. You were more submissive in the aspect of getting change. I was wild. You couldn't stop me when I started. There were times where you were like not stopping. You were fighting me, but I mean, like, I could make things change. Right. I could if I wanted. I mean, Derek's strong enough that he could physically, if he wanted to, he never did this, by the way, he could physically lock me up and make sure that I had nothing. And I couldn't physically do that with him. Because if I could have, I wouldn't do that. Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I've threatened you, probably saying,
you know what, I just want to lock you up and make sure you detox and get you clean.
But who doesn't want to do that, right?
I know. I would have done it if I could have physically done it.
I told Kurt that one time. I was like, dude, I just want to lock your ass up to a chain in my basement and come feed you, 3 times a day and like get you off the drugs, but
It's funny.
that's just because I love them. I just want them to have a better life.
And you want to do those things for the people because you want, once they can get a little bit of clean time, they have more of a clear mind. When you're in the addiction, your mind is not normal. Your thinking is not normal. It is all compromised.
Even
whether
new
people
recovery,
realize that or not.
When you're brand new in recovery, it's the same thing. There are people with years of clean time and alcohol, being off alcohol and stuff, and drugs, and they aren't clear-minded. There are a lot of people, they call them dry drunks, or people who just practically are annoyed at life and they're just clean because of that. There's a mentality behind this. And this is the mentality I had from day 5. The reason people did not believe I was 5 days off heroin or it wasn't that bad. And I'm telling you, I got witnesses. I'm going to be interviewing John and James. I'm going to be interviewing people who were sniffing it and shooting up with me.
It was bad.
It was bad. How come Derek was so optimistic at day 5? Why was I on
your personality, one.
Personality helps, but Pink Cloud, I had been so desperate, and I finally surrendered. I literally surrendered. Right. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how do I give that.
Fighting it and realize that you have a problem. Once you, just like in AA they talk about or any of those groups, once you do surrender and realize that you have a problem that you can't control it. There is no controlling it. There is no getting around it. There's no, I can do it a little bit this time and I'm not going to do it again the next time. It's not like that. Mm-hmm. I've done that too. I could take, my Adderall today and I won't take it tomorrow.
I take it tomorrow. I take it the next day.
Then I take 2. Mm-hmm. Then I take 3. Whatever I want to take, and it keeps going no matter what. And then I think, I only have to take 1 today, but I just really want to take 2. So I'm still going to take 2.
I mean, look, I've got buddies who literally, they contacted me, they're ready to go to treatment, or they're thinking about going to treatment. They contact me, and they're like, D, but my family needs me to pay the bills. And if I leave, they're going to lose their house, and this and this and that.
Or my family doesn't know.
Or that happens a lot, yeah.
More times than not, they know.
They know something's wrong.
They know.
If they don't know what you're doing, they know something's wrong, and being honest and opening up is so important. But people contact me, and they did that, and I'm like, dude, my biggest concern is if you stay out doing what you're doing, you could die, right? This stuff on the street's no joke. Something could happen. You could easily die, or just getting it off the street because that's how they're doing it. They're not just getting prescribed. Some are getting prescribed. That lifestyle, that is what I'm like, look, if you don't do it now while you have the insurance that you have, then when that insurance goes away, because you're going to lose your job, at some point something's going to happen that's going to cause you not to be able to keep living the way you're living. I always have a saying, I couldn't live with heroin, but I couldn't live without it. Right. I didn't know how to live life. With it, I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't do function. I had to have it, but I couldn't live with it or without it. And it's going to come to a point where you're going to lose everything, and then now you're stuck with either no insurance or state insurance, and you're hoping there's a decent location you can get help, or it just sucks, man. The system sucks, but I try to get them to get help now. So if you're struggling, hit us up, man. Me and the wife are here for you. So we're leaving our little spot we got right over here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but we have this little spot that we did our video in. Now, heading back to the car. Good little walk. It's a place on top of the mountain that we stay on. I mean, pretty cool. All that stuff. Now we're back on the path, heading back to the car to get the boys from school.